Hi everyone. I'm happy to be here today and present my work about origin and gender bias in pre-trained German and French word embeddings. Bias in natural language processing has different forms. For example, it has been shown that the way women and men are described in Wikipedia is very different. We can also experience a bias in translation, for example, by using Google Translate. If we translate the two English sentences, she's an engineer and he's a nurse, to a language like Turkish, where we have no difference between he and she. So she is an engineer and he is an engineer would translate to the same Turkish sentence. And we then translate the two sentences back to English. What we get is he's an engineer and she's a nurse, based on stereotypes of our society, encoded also in NLP systems. Bias appears also in pre-trained word embeddings. It has been shown that word embeddings encode existing social stereotypes. So for example, words like he or man are associated to jobs like programmer or doctor, whereas other words like she or woman are associated to jobs like homemaker or nurse. In this work, I will present you our findings regarding the following research questions. We investigated whether known gender and origin bias that was found in pre-trained English word embeddings can also be confirmed in German and French. I will also present results on different forms of gender bias in German word embeddings that were identified during this research. Before measuring bias in word embeddings, let's have a look at how bias can be measured in humans. The implicit association test from psychology is a computer-based measure that measures implicit bias in humans. Users that are taking the test are asked to associate target concepts with an attribute. So they are asked to match different words together. Based on the reaction time, implications about association between the concepts can be taken. The shorter the reaction time, the stronger the association between the concept that can be interpreted, because they spontaneously match these two concepts together. For example, such an implicit association test can look as follows, where we have astronomy that needs to be matched either to science or to liberal arts. This is the very basic introduction test of such an implicit association test, not containing yet the gender or other discrimination-specific components. To have a closer look at how these kind of tests look like, there is the website of the project Implicit, which makes such kind of tests for different types of discrimination available. Based on the implicit association test from psychology, the word embedding association test WEHAT was created. The WEHAT is a statistical test to measure bias in word embeddings. Here, instead of the reaction time, the distance between the word vectors is measured and compared. The experiments in the original WEHAT paper were done in the English language, and they were producing the original wording from implicit association tests. So they are taking the same experiments that have been shown in humans, that there are implicit stereotypes. And they showed that the same bias regarding gender and origin is also encoded in word embeddings. For origin, African American and European American names were considered, and a bias in how these two types of names are encoded in the word embeddings was shown. For example, such a word embedding association test consists of 4 sets of words. On one side, we have male and female names, and on the other side, for example, in this case, we have career words and family words. So words either related to career or to family. The wording from this WEHAT experiment is based on the original wording of an implicit association test. In this work, we reproduced the results for English for verification. We confirmed a statistically significant bias in English word embeddings for selected experiments regarding gender and origin from the original WHAT paper. As datasets, we used both GLOVE and Word2Vec pre-trained word embeddings. The GLOVE pre-trained word embeddings were trained on common crawl corpus, and the Word2Vec word embeddings were trained on Google News. Both of them are publicly available and are probably used in several applications. We picked 4 different experiments to be reproduced. On one side, we reproduced the African American and European American first names that were associated with the pleasant and unpleasant words. And on the other side, we selected the gender-specific experiments, where in the first experiment, male and female first names were compared to career and family words, which is the example that we saw more in detail previously. And on the other side, we had similar sets comparing math and arts words and science and arts words, both in comparison with male and female terms. We confirmed a statistically significant bias for all the experiments we reproduced for English. After having verified our system by reproducing the results for English word embeddings, we adapted and translated the experiments to German and French. Most of the words, as for example in the career and family word sets, could just be translated. Sometimes the terms had to be adapted or replaced because of some double sense or some other mismatch due to the language. You find all the details about these modifications in the paper. For the names, we selected the most common first names in Switzerland. On one side, for the German word embeddings, we used the most common first names in German-speaking Switzerland. And for the French experiments, we used the most common first names in Western Switzerland. In the results, we identified a statistically significant bias for the first 3 experiments. We confirmed that for Swiss first names and first names of different origin, there is a bias towards the pleasant and unpleasant words, similar to the African American and European American words in the original WHAT experiment. We also confirmed that for the male and female names, regarding the career and family words, there is a statistically significant bias for both Swiss names and for the most common names for men and women from Germany. We could not confirm a statistically significant bias for math and arts and science and arts experiments. For German and also for French, we used the pre-trained fast text word embeddings that are available in several languages and that are trained on Common Crawl and Wikipedia. They are commonly used in many multilingual applications. For French, the results are similar, but we could not identify a statistically significant bias for Swiss male and female first names and Korean family words. For the rest, we have similar results as for German. Could confirm the origin bias for the names and the pleasant and the unpleasant words, and we could confirm the career and family words bias for male and female first names from France. But we could again not confirm the math and arts and science and arts experiments for French. These results indicate that bias might differ in different languages or cultures. We therefore further examined the bias in German word embeddings. In a first experiment, we explored whether real-world bias, such as study choices, are reflected in word embeddings. We therefore selected the 5 subjects with the lowest percentage of women in 2015 in Switzerland. And on the other side, we selected the 5 subjects with the highest percentage of women. Among such with the lowest percentage, we find electrical engineering, computer science, whereas among the highest percentage of women we have in educational science or veterinary medicine. Together with these two fields of study, we used male and female terms, similar as they have been used previously in the other experiments. We identified a significant bias and therefore can conclude that a real-world bias is encoded also in German word embeddings, but might have a slightly different form than in English. In the second experiment, we observed that historical bias is as well included in nowadays word embeddings. We considered a study that created a list of words of the perception of male and female character in the 18th century. In this study, a male character in the 18th century was perceived as mind, rationality, thinking, or judging, whereas a female character was perceived as feeling, understanding, or sentiment words. Again, we used the male and female terms, and we were able also here to show a significant bias between these word sets, and therefore a significant bias in the word embeddings regarding this historical bias. In this work, we found indication for specific regional and cultural stereotypes, also in word embeddings. We therefore assume that bias detection may vary among different languages, and further research is required to further investigate this for more different languages and for other sets of words. Future work should also study on how the impact of such bias in word embeddings on NLP applications can be made measurable. Such publicly available word embeddings are used in several NLP applications, and consequences need to be measurable for the fairness of the application. In this work, to conclude, we partially confirmed gender and origin bias in German and French pre-trained word embeddings that was previously found in English. And we identified that in different languages, a bias might come in a different form. In particular, we found that real-world bias and stereotypes from the 18th century are included in today's German word embeddings, and that future research should address on how different languages can be better addressed to measure the bias. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm very happy to answer your questions, ideas, or discuss with you. Thank you.